Hi everybody, Allison from Teen Services at Sachem Public Library. Today I'm going to be going over some of the medium crochet activities that we have. Today we're going to be going over how to make some double crochets, working in the round, and making a granny square. So you'll need yarn, a hook, scissors, and a yarn needle. Now, if you haven't watched the first video for the beginner activities, I suggest watching that because we're going to go a little bit faster on some of the parts that you may be unfamiliar with. First thing we're going to do is make a slip knot, and we're going to make some chains. So just a quick reminder, making the loop, putting it through, and pulling. Remember, don't make your hook, your loop too tight on your hook. Now, we're just going to practice making double crochets. So you can make your chain as long or as short as you'd like. I recommend making it a little bit longer so that way you can have more practice and improve and see your improvement on your chain. Now, if you're not sure how to chain, like I said, I'd recommend going back to the first video to show you how to make some chains. That should be long enough. Now, in our first activity, we made a face scrubby, and we went into the second chain from the hook. Now, double crochets are a lot taller than single crochets. So for that one, you're going to go in to the third chain from your hook. So your first one, your second one, and your third one right here. Now, with single crochets, you go straight into your chain. But there's a step before that for a double crochet. You're going to yarn over first and then go into your chain. So now it looks like 3 loops on your hook. Then you're going to yarn over, so we've got 4, and this, what we've yarned over, will go underneath that chain we went into. So now we have 3 loops on our hook. What you're going to do next is yarn over again. Now this can get a little tricky, but what you've just yarned over, you're going to pull through just these 2 middle loops. So that way you only have 2 loops on your hook. Then we're going to yarn over one more time and pull through both. See, this is a lot taller than the single crochets that we did. So now let's go into the next one. Same thing. Yarn over, put it into the chain, yarn over, pull through, so we've got 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And now you can see this building a little bit better. So what I want you to do is practice doing these double crochets. And you can see you can also pull on this to see how many you've done. If you've done 1 in each chain, 2 in each chain, I'll show you what that looks like so you know what to watch out for. Two in each chain will look like this. So you'll see these 2 are very close together. So you want to avoid that. Just put 1 in each. Yarn over, put it through your chain, yarn over, pull through 1, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Keep practicing with this double crochet. If you need to, take it out and do it again. Don't be discouraged if you can't get it on the first try. This one is a little bit trickier. You do have a step before you go into your chains and stitches, so don't worry. Just keep practicing, get the hang of it, and you'll be making them as quick as possible in no time. For our project, we're going to be making a granny square, and granny squares are done by working in a round. Now I'm just going to briefly go over what working in a round looks like and what it means. So you don't have to follow along with this, but I'm just going to show you very quickly. Let's say I'm going to make a circle. Rounds are worked counterclockwise. So what I'm doing is just putting double crochets in one stitch into the same chain to create the circle. And as I'm moving, you can see the circle start to form, but it's done counterclockwise, so I'm moving this way. Just like that. And then I'll just close this off. Now, like I said, you don't have to follow along, but I'm just giving you an idea that working in the round means you're going to be working counterclockwise. So we started here and worked our way around counter. Now you're ready to make the medium project, which is a granny square. Granny squares might look a little bit complicated, but I promise it is a lot simpler than it seems. It's a lot of repeating the same pattern. Now we just learned how to make double crochets, and when you feel like you're comfortable with that, get ready to do this one. So what we're going to do is start out with the same way we start out all of our projects, which is with that slip knot. And we're going to chain 4. This is going to count as your first double crochet, and I'll show you what that means. So for this first round, we are going to be working in the same chain. It's going to be the very first one that you made. So this one right here, that is going to be where you're going to put your hook every time for this round. So we're going to make 2 double crochets to start out with. So we're yarning over, going into that first one, yarning over, pulling through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And we're going to make one more, and you'll see this hole will get bigger the more double crochets you'll put in. If you need to pull it a little bit to help you realize where it is, so you can remember, you don't want to put it in between here, you don't want to put it in your chain. If it's easier, you can pull your tail and see it's right by the tail of your yarn. So after I've made those 2 double crochets, I'm going to chain 2. And this is going to be our corner. Now what I'm going to do is make 3 double crochets. And remember, it's all going in to this hole right here. Now I know it might look a little weird, but this is actually 2 sides of the square already done, at least for the first round. Now what we're going to do is make 2 chains and make 3 double crochets into this circle. I told you it's going to get wider, so it makes it a little bit easier to find as you go along for this round. Then you're going to chain 2 and make 3 more double crochets into that hole. It's now gotten much bigger. And you're going to chain 2. Now we're going to close off this round by using a slip stitch. A slip stitch basically just closes off a round, or it creates almost like an invisible stitch. So what I'm going to do is insert my hook right underneath this double crochet. So the first double crochet you made, not your chain 3, but the first one you made, I'm going right underneath those 2 top loops, yarning over, pulling through and pulling through again. So now that closed the round. I'm going to do the same thing in the next 2. So I'm going to go underneath these 2 loops, yarn over, and you're pulling through all of it. So there's no more yarning over. Then I'm going to go into this giant space here and do 1 more slip stitch because I want to get to this corner. Now you've done your first round. You can see this square forming. What you're going to do is chain 3, which, like this round, counts as your first double crochet. And what you're going to do is make 2 double crochets in this big space here. Just like that. And then what you'll do is chain 2 and make 3 double crochets in this same exact space here. So this is your chain 2 space, which is, again, another corner. Just like that. And you can start to see that this is going to be the corner of the next round. Now, remember, we're working counterclockwise, and in order to get to this corner over here, what we're going to do is chain 2. Then we're going to make 3 double crochets into that chain 2 space from the previous row. Oops. Then chain 2 and make 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space I just put the last 3 in. Now it's starting to form a little bit more. We're adding volume. We're adding rows. We're making this square bigger. So then we're going to chain 2 again to get to this corner. Hopefully you're starting to get the pattern a little bit. Double crochets, chaining 2. So now I'm going to chain 2. And there's that third corner. Chain 2 again. those 3 last double crochets in there. So now we're almost done with this round. Now what we're going to do is chain 2 and do that slip stitch again. So underneath this double crochet right here, underneath that stitch, or underneath those 2 loops, yarning over, pulling it through, and pulling it through again. Going underneath, yarning over, pulling through again, and the same thing for that chain 2 space. Now, we're going to again chain 3. So you may start to see every time you start a new round, you're chaining 3. Every time you get to a corner, you will have 6 double crochets in the corner with a chain 2 in between. So let's start this round. Whenever you start that round though, remember, this chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. So we'll make 2 double crochets, chain 2, then make 2 double crochets again. Sorry, 3. Now, chain 2. So now we have this middle space. So before we were just working on the corners, but now we have a middle space. So what you're going to do is after chaining 2, yarn over and put only 3 double crochets in that middle space. Then chain 2, and you're going to work your corners the same way we've been working them before. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets. Just like that. So now we've come to that middle space again. So we're chaining 2, only putting 3 into that middle space, chaining 2, and then working our corner. Now you can really see the square. So let's finish up the square now. Let's get this round finished. Now I've done the last middle space before I get to here. I'm going to chain 2, and just like the previous rounds, I'm going to slip stitch into just the first one. And now we're gonna finish off. So I'm gonna make a large loop and cut my yarn and pull that through. So now we're going to take our yarn needle and we're going to weave in the ends. So what I like to do is, for this, I put it through the loop or through the stitch, And you can kind of tell the difference between the front and the back with a square. This looks a little more nicer with the texture. This side is the back. So with some projects, you can work front to back, like with our face scrubby, it looks the same on both sides. But with something like the square, this is definitely the back. Now, like in the previous video, what you're going to do is just go underneath just these two, and you'll know that it's just those two, because if you don't see anything on this side, that means you're going just behind those two. And what I like to do is just go through the corner, just like that, and pull it through. And then I'll take my bottom one and go just behind about half the circle. Pull it through, and we're going to cut, and there is the granny square. Now with this, you can make a lot of different granny squares and stitch them together to make a blanket. You can make a purse, you can make slippers. You can make this even bigger if you wanted to. And just do a chain 3 and do your corner and keep going with just 3 in the middle. And you can make a pot holder. You can make these as big or small as you want. And now that you've mastered this, you can go on to do the harder crochet activities where we learn how to make a heart.